Let's go through all these 8 matchups in the last 16. Let's kind of put a timer, a minute for each game, and then rattle through them, Nick, and give our sort of predictions. I'm going to go to you for Netherlands, USA to kick this off. The Dutch are favoured, but obviously the US feels like they really fancy a shock in this game, but it's going to be tight, evenly matched. Can we see what? Extra time and penalty kicks in this one? I'm sure that will make the nerves jangle just a little bit across America.
I've got myself to 50-50 on this, Joe. I know I told you guys I was 40-60, and then the Dutch got the flu. And one of those players is Frankie de Jong, and he is so important to what they do. And so I've talked myself into a win in regulation.
Wow, you have. Okay, I'm thinking, Andy, when it comes to this game in particular, there are just key battles, right? Key little individual battles that are going to decide it. And maybe it is the manager that maybe will decide the outcome of this one.
Let's hope not.
And a bigger switch.
Well, you don't rate Greg versus the experience and bravado, shall we say, of Luke? I tend to agree, especially in a knockout scenario. It does feel like the intangibles maybe favor the Netherlands a little bit. But I think if you just kind of look at form and you look at the trajectory these teams are on and the overall health, to Nick's point, it does feel like this is the opportunity for the U.S. to get back to the quarterfinals. And we've already talked about how it's set up from there. Maybe do something more.
Absolutely. All right. So we're kind of going for it's going to be close. So it'll be fun. We'll talk a lot more about the Netherlands and US game later on in the show. Argentina against Australia, Nick Mendola. Messi and co, they're improving, you think, with Alexis McAllister, Rodrigo de Paul, just kind of holding down midfield and getting their fullbacks sorted up and higher up the pitch. But the Socceroos, they'll sit back. I mean, their counter, they've got some decent players in Aaron Moy, Matty Ryan, Suter's been good. And then Lecky obviously scored a great goal to get them into the knockout rounds. And it's just they're playing with house money, right? The Aussies. So Argentina have already been shocked once in this tournament. Can it happen again?
Yeah, I was going to say, what are the odds that the upset of the century, which I didn't really think it was against Saudi Arabia, could be upstaged by the actual upset of the century? If Australia wins this game, it will be very much in the discussion for the biggest shock in the history of the World Cup.
Oh, wow. All right, we're going that far with it.
You don't
Andy,
think
so? It'll be up there. It will be up there. You're right, actually. But I actually think this Australian team is better than a lot of people think, and they are just a horrible team to play against. I think in the history of the game, I'm thinking they're like a Stoke City from 10 years ago in the Premier League who were just awful to play against, but got some great results and just underappreciated. But let's move on to France against Poland, Andy. Surely if France were here, Poland were awful in the group stage. You got Mbappe, Griezmann, Dembele clicking through the gears, Giroud just lurking in the background, ready to probably bury a header in this one. So job done for the French, right?
Should be. Just have not rated Poland kind of this entire time that Robert Lewandowski has been the talisman there. They've never supported him in real meaningful ways, chance creation, a second scorer, someone to get on the end of his chances. They've been very, very solid defensively for the most part, but I look at this France team and, we already talked about, best team at the tournament so far. It just seems like this is way too much firepower for Poland, and Mbappe is going to have a great day. Griezmann's in incredible form, which we didn't expect. I mean, you talk about house money, having Griezmann at the level he's at right now, that is a true ace in the hole for Didier Deschamps.
I know, Upamecano, obviously Varane, Konate at the back, and then Rabiot and Tchouaméni in midfield have been excellent. So some of the areas you thought France might struggle in have actually been really good. So, yeah, they're going to breeze past Poland. But this tournament, us saying that, they probably won't. England against Senegal, Nick Mendola. 3 lines are favoured, but this is going to be a tight one. Senegal on the counter with Ismaili Sarr have looked dangerous. Yes, they're missing Sadio Mane. I'm just looking forward to see if Harry Kane can actually get off the mark in this World Cup. He has some good assists, but I think if he can score, then that'll do his confidence and the England team's confidence a load of good. And if they get through this one, then maybe it'll just kind of reignite their tournament.
Yeah, my big question is, can England dictate what kind of game it wants to play? Because I can see it hanging with and beating Senegal in both ways, right? A very physical, slow, plodding possession way, or in the track meet way. But which way does England want it? I imagine possession. Which way is Senegal going to try and make them play? A lot of this probably comes down to Declan Rice asserting himself along with Bellingham, as you mentioned, in the midfield, or will it be Jordan Henderson in there if they want to slug it out? Because I think at his heart, Gareth Southgate wants to slug it out often, which is funny because they can play with anybody.
Yeah, he's a cautious manager, but I think now in the knockout rounds, let's see how far this team's developed and I guess how brave they're going to be, right? They have to be smart as well because we've seen upsets, but I think it's a real fine dividing line for England. And you're right, they're better when they go for it, and hopefully they set themselves up well in this game against Senegal. I'm speaking purely from I like England and no emotional connection whatsoever. Andy, Japan against Croatia. I mean, that top half of the bracket is looking decent for likes of Argentina and Brazil, but these two teams, they'll be in and around there. But for Japan, I think they are real underdogs in terms of the tournament, but now they're getting a lot of respect after beating Spain and Germany in the group stage. So do you fancy Japan to beat Croatia now as well?
Yeah, I really do. And Nick was on this before the tournament started, and they've gone out, and I think aside from the game against Costa Rica, which how do you even possibly explain what happened there? They have been one of the best teams at this tournament, knocking off Spain, knocking off Germany the way that they did. And they have the ability, I think, to play, to keep a clean sheet against just about anyone. But for them, like the key is going to be, do they give themselves the opportunity on the counterattack? And they've not done that from the start of games. They've started slow. If they can start quicker in the knockout rounds, then I see them as someone who can make a deep run, especially in that top half of the bracket.
Nick, we got the next game coming up here. Brazil against South Korea. When they tell us out, they kind of took care of business pretty easily, even though they lost to Cameroon after a lot of changes. But then Heung-min Son and South Korea, they really deserved it. They were decent the whole tournament, obviously left it late in the final game, got through. I think that euphoria and momentum for them might, it's almost a feeling of destiny a little bit with them, I think, because they were just knocking at the door so many times throughout the group stage, never gave up, well organized, finally got through right at the end and beat Portugal. But is Brazil just kind of a step up too much for them, or can they really frustrate this superstar Brazilian team?
No, I think they can frustrate him. And we have seen Heung-min Son take games over. And I'm not saying that'll happen against Brazil, but if he goes to those days where we look at him and Kane and we don't think, well, it's Kane 1A and Son 1B. There are days where it just looks like Son is the Sun, S-U-N. He is the fire behind that team. If he can manufacture that, they do have a puncher's chance of getting out of it. It's a team that lost just once in qualifying. I know that, in Asia in a group with Iran and the UAE isn't the same thing at all, but a puncher's chance. Although, but I am picking Brazil to win.
Yeah, I think me too, but be fun to see South Korea go at them. Andy, Morocco against Spain. This is a really intriguing game. Obviously, can Spain refine and regain that clinical touch that they had against Costa Rica? Because in the two games against Germany and Japan since, they just looked a bit sluggish and kind of what we expected in the final third. A lot of good build-up play, but haven't got that cutting edge. And obviously for Morocco, Ziyech is the key leading them. They won their group, which was exceptional. Great fan base there that's going to be roaring them on against Spain. I've got upset alert going in my head here when I'm talking about this game with you, or is this kind of maybe we're just reading that Japan win against Spain a little bit too much?
Yeah, you reading my notes, Joe? Like literally, upset alert was the first two words coming out of my mouth as soon as he gave it to me there. It sets up perfectly, I think, for Morocco. And even tactically, the way that these teams set up, Morocco's strengths are out wide. Hakimi, Mazraoui on both sides at fullback. They've got a really, really sturdy, blunt object to put in front of the back line in Amrabat, who will go and win the ball and break up as much of that Spanish possession as he can. And Ziyech up top, you mentioned him, Joe. He's kind of the X factor for this team. There will be chances to counter for this. I don't know. It sets up absolutely perfectly. And if I had to pick one of the 8 games in the round of 16 to say this is definitely going to be an upset, I would pick this one.
Nick, final game, Portugal against Switzerland. They met recently in the Nations League, split those games, I think quite evenly matched when it comes to some of the talent, but Portugal probably favoured, right? Well, definitely favoured, but I never know with them. Never know with Portugal. You mentioned it earlier. They can just put in some really bad displays, and the Ronaldo factor just kind of worries me a little bit for them. It's almost like if he doesn't turn up like we've seen with Man United so far this season, then they're playing with 10 players, basically. So the Swiss, very organised, always seem to go further than we all think they're going to do at every single tournament.
It's chilly in December in Buffalo, but give me one of those fans for that day of the tournament. I think for Morocco, Spain, and then Portugal and Switzerland to go back-to-back, as well as the ensuing game, 4 teams that want to play soccer. They want to get after it. I think it's going to be a thrilling game. I think Switzerland lends itself a little bit. I mean, even I'll tell you something. A guy I loved and has been one of the bargain buys of the Premier League about 5 years ago is Fabian Schär at Switzerland. They have developed big, strong backs and midfielders, Xhaka included, Manuel Akanji, who can play the ball too. And you could tell me that either of these, all 4 of those teams in the bottom, Morocco, Spain, Portugal, and Switzerland, they're all finalist caliber. I really mean that.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. For even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you over there.